Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be covering demo problem 1 which will enable us to understand how to create JSON files. We'll also learn how to parse the created JSON files. We'll be writing code within a script file called sum.py which will enable us to parse this JSON file into a list of integers and compute the sum of all the integer values. I hope all of you have been able to download sum_template.py. Please pause the lecture video here and launch idle editor to open and rename sum_template.py to sum.py. Then launch terminal or PowerShell window so that you'll be able to execute sum.py. Before I get started with this demo, I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about the most common mistakes that students make with respect to programming projects for this course. Some students tend to type in tens or twenties of lines of code directly to solve a particular project question and they try to run it. That is not the correct approach. Instead, you need to come up with high-level pseudocode steps which will enable you to solve that particular problem. It is important that you decouple the logical thought process from the programming syntax. Once you come up with the pseudocode steps, take each step and perform incremental coding and testing, just like how I go through demo problems as part of lecture videos. Incremental coding and testing will save a lot of your precious time. If you were to directly type in twenties of lines of code and run it, you'll be spending a lot of time debugging the error messages that show up as part of your project code. The second most common mistake made by students is that they'll be invoking a single function over and over again with the exact same set of arguments. That is highly inefficient and does not make any sense. No matter how many times you invoke a function with the same arguments, you're going to get the exact same output. Instead of repetitively invoking the function, you need to call it once and save the return value into a variable and use that variable as part of the rest of your project. This particular concept is very important with respect to invoking process underscore CSV and read underscore JSON functions. Please keep in mind that file processing is extremely slow. If you were to repetitively invoke these functions as part of your project code will be very slow and it will not clear the autograder. For a given dataset file, you need to invoke these functions only once and store the return value into a specific variable and reuse that data structure variable as part of the rest of your project. Let's get started with demo problem 1 here. We are provided the steps for solving this particular problem. Step 1 says copy and paste code for reading JSON file. I'm going to switch to the slide deck and copy and paste read underscore JSON function. Let's go through step 2, which is going to enable us to create nums_a.json file. There are two ways for you to create JSON files. I'll cover first way as part of step 2. You can use the echo command. So I'm going to copy paste this command into my terminal window. Recall that the echo command enables you to display the argument that you pass onto the screen. When you combine that with the redirect command, you'll be able to write the argument as contents within that particular file. We can confirm that by using the cat command and passing nums_a.json as argument. Observe that we are able to see the contents of nums_a.json as list of integers here. Step 3 says process nums_a.json as a command line argument using sys module. Clearly, I'll have to import the sys module. You need to make sure to include all of the import statements at the beginning of the program or as part of the initial cell within your Jupyter Notebook file. Once I import the sys module, I can use the special list within the sys module called sys.rb. Let me just display sys.rb. Let's execute the program. Since I'm on a Mac, I'm going to say python 3 space sum.py. If you're on Windows, you'll have to say python space sum.py. Recall that the sys.argv special list always contains the name of the program at index position 0. That's why we are able to see sum.py here. How do we pass nums.a.json as command line argument? You need to type in Python 3 sum.py and then nums.a.json. Observe that the sys.argv list now contains two items. The item at index position 1 is going to be your first command line argument. So in order to extract the item at index position 1, I'm going to use indexing. So I'll be saying sys.argv of 1. Let me capture this into a variable called input underscore file, and I'm going to use the print function call to display input underscore file to confirm that we are getting the correct output. Looks like we are getting the correct output. Let's move on to step 4. Step 4 says read the JSON file passed as first command line argument. We can do that by using read underscore JSON function here. I'm going to call that function and pass input underscore file as argument. Let me capture the return value into a variable called data, and I'm going to invoke print function to display data. Let's go ahead and execute the program. Observe that we are getting the correct output here. Step 5 says print the type of data returned by the function that reads JSON file. I'm going to reuse the variable data here instead of invoking read underscore JSON function again. Recall that you can find the type of a specific variable using the type built-in function. So I'm simply going to say print of type of data. Let's execute the program. That's going to show the type as list here because we have a list of integers. Step 6 says use Python built-in function sum to calculate total. We haven't covered the built-in function sum yet. The built-in function sum takes a single dimensional list as argument, and it's going to sum up all the item values within that particular single dimensional list. So I'm going to invoke the sum function by passing data as argument, and let me use the print function call to display the return value from the sum function. Let's try to execute the program. Observe that we are getting 10, which is the correct sum of these integer values. Step 7 says create a new JSON file numsb.json, and we need to paste this particular list of integers into that file. I'm going to show you the second way of creating JSON files. Let me open a new terminal tab, and I'm going to launch Jupyter Notebook by typing in Jupyter space notebook. Instead of saying new Python 3, we are going to say new text file. Let's rename untitled.txt by left clicking on it, and I'm going to save the file as numsb.json here. Let me click on OK. Now I'll be able to paste the list of integers that I copied from the idle window. Once I do that, I'm going to switch back to idle, and let's try to execute the program from inside the terminal window here. We need to invoke the sum.py script by passing numsb.json as argument. Let me try that. Observe that we are getting an error here. You're getting a lot of error stack. All that you need to worry about is this last line here, which says that you have a JSON decoder error. Whenever you get JSON decode error, you can understand that the JSON file format has some issue. So it is saying expecting value, and line 1 column 12 and character 11 has some issue, correct? So what is the issue here? Let me switch over to Jupyter Notebook here. Observe that we have a trailing comma. Recall that JSON format does not support a trailing comma. So if I were to delete that comma and save the file, let's try to run the program one more time. I'm going to just use the up arrow key on my keyboard. Observe that now we are getting 13 as the output from the program, which is the correct sum value for this particular list of integers. Step number 8 is asking you to try out certain inputs as part of simple.json file. I'll only go through the first of it. I'll let you go through the remaining here. So what we have to do is we have to copy this particular value and use the echo command. So I'm going to type in echo and paste that value, use the redirect command and type in simple.json here. Let's try to execute the program by passing simple.json as argument. Observe that we are getting type error. The type error is in line number 26, which says float object not iterable. Line number 26 is this particular sum built-in function call. Keep in mind that the sum built-in function only enables you to pass a list of values as argument. Our input here is going to be just of floating type as displayed by the output from the type function call. So you cannot pass that variable as an argument for sum built-in function call. So you need to comment out this particular line because sum is not applicable for this particular type of input. So if I were to execute the program again, the type error will go away. One thing which I want to mention about the last two string values is that if you were to use echo command to create that particular entry within simple.json, you'll have to use the escape sequence character. What do I mean by that? If we type in echo double quotations hello and redirect that to simple.json, that's simply going to write the string hello and leave out the double quotations. Instead of that, you need to type in backslash in front of every quotation so that you're able to capture the backslash as part of the file's content here. Please do try out the other inputs for this particular simple.json step 8. I'll wrap up this video here. In the next video, we'll be going through demo problem 2.